Yo, welcome Flyffers to another advanced PvE guide. Today we want to take a look at the Aoe Ranger. We have already done a guide that covering the level 1 to 90 Aoe Ranger. This is the beginner PvE guide that can be found on the channel. So if you're in this level range, I do recommend watching this guide first before going into this one. And today we want to cover the level 90 all the way to 120 of the Aoe Ranger. But before we jump into the video, I noticed that only 20% of my viewers are subscribed to the channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, let's make a deal. You watch this video all the way till the end and I'm sure I earned your subscription by then. Now let's get right started. So we are already at a controversial part just at the beginning of the video, because some players are saying that you can play full decks, and this is true. There's only one benefit in adding stamina to it, and this will result in you being able to shortly stand tank an AoE rather than doing it a full hit and run as you would do it with a full deck setup. And this way you can utilize the full DPS potential of the Aoe Ranger, and overall this low amount of stamina will result in a higher DPS, which is why I recommend going for this AoE build rather than a full dex AoE build. And since you are level 90, you should by now have realized that Ringmasters are the strongest class in the game, and you do need a Ringmaster support at any time with you. So if you do not have a permanent Ringmaster, make sure you're at least leveled a level 75 Ringmaster by yourself to have buffs available at any times, and especially like strong buff like GT that giving you a ton of attack percentage. You cannot miss out on those buffs. That's what I'm saying. It is important to have it up at any time. Now let's take a look what your stats should look like at certain levels. Once you manage to get your way to level 105, you should have about 13.5k health. This is fine. And which is more important actually is the melee block. The amount of defense on a Ranger is not as important. The melee block is the best, like the most important stat that you're looking for in an AoE setup, and this block rate will basically result in only 1 out of 3 hits actually hitting ya, which is insane and really easy to food against. Once you are level 120, you do want to have a max health amount of slightly above 15k. The reason for this is that a gold pill is healing 15k, and this way you can utilize the full healing potential of your pill while following it up with a really high melee block rate, and overall you're going to stand there like a rock even with tanking like high amounts of mobs right there. And this amount of health, you already mentioned it, will allow you to shortly stand tank as well and follow up with an Aoe Ranger to give you the highest DPS potential. Now let's take a look what your level 90 build should actually look like. The level 75 set was already endgame, that's why we already suggested a plus 10 and 28% attack upgrade here. Even though it is an AoE character, you do not want to have HP percent in your suit, since the attack is scaling so well and you do not need that much HP overall. And for example, your bows are giving you HP percentage as well, so you are fine with statting attack cards into your suit. The Angel Bow is one of the best early game bows, so a plus 10 upgrade is really good. And you are using Fire Arrow as your main damage source, and you can increase this damage by adding fire onto your bow. This is why I do recommend going for a high fire upgrade here. Now then, there's something special about being 120. You do not need a new set. So we already said this is end gear, so Okas is the best in slot with the increased skill damage. The Ranger is not as dependent on defense as other classes, so you do not benefit from like a level 105 race set as much that is higher defense, because your strength and ability to tank comes from high melee block rates. And if you're getting this set to +10, you're still having like a really good block rate overall. And this block rate is even boosted with the mythical silver bow right here. That will be the replacement for the angel bow, and it's giving you another 10% block as well. And similar to the angel bow, you do want to have +10 fire here to boost your main damage source. Now, awakenings on the Ranger are a bit different. There's actually 3 viable options, and since the weapon reroll scrolls are really expensive, me personally, since this is only a PvE level advantage and not like a PvP factor, I would just, whatever of those 3 I would get the highest roll on early, I would just keep it. But I did make an order, so Flame Arrow would be the best, Ice Arrow the second best, and Aoe Ranger the third best to get. And this is basically up to you, the decision. Me personally, I would be fine with anything. I wouldn't spend too much on like a PvE level gear overall. Now the jewelry, you probably on first sight realize that the Clockworks jewelry is vanished, and this is due to normal +20 jewelry having higher effects than Clockworks jewelry. And the only thing you do have to be careful here is that when you upgrade those kind of jewelry to certain levels, this requires you to have to be at a certain level to actually wear it. So for example, like a +10 Eric ring requires you to be level 60. And this is just an example, it's not an exact amount. If you want to know the exact amounts so you don't accidentally upgrade it higher than you should, all the information are in the upgrade guide that is on the channel. There's also plenty of other information as well, especially if you want to take a look into element upgrade and stuff like this. Now, which skills to use? The Ranger is a bit more skill heavy, and the only class that's, or like not the only class, but one of the classes that is using 3 different AoE skills to be 100% effective. And this is Aoe Ranger, that is creating a dot on the floor, Flame Arrow, that is like your highest damage skill, and the Ice Arrow that will debuff the monsters that are following you by -50% speed. And this is the skill that actually allows you to be able to hit and run with the Ranger. You do want to have perfect block up at any times. We already talked about how strong the +20% block rate is. Then bow mastery, of course, since you're using a bow. Nature is really good because this will allow you to attack monsters from a far distance, and you can already continue attacking next mobs, and they will take a time to travel to your location and walk all the way up there. This gives you a lot of time, and also more time to follow it up with ice arrows and stuff like this. Fast walker, more movement speed is always amazing if you're collecting mobs. Now let's finish it up with a bit of a suggestion on how the playstyle should look like. So I like to use Fast Walker, then you have the increased movement speed, and you can collect all the mobs really fast together for your AoE. And then you're in an AoE cycle, so you want to use the Ice Arrow to get the slow onto the monsters, and then you can follow this up with the Fire Arrow and Aoe Ranger, and you will just go in a repeat. Just make sure that you're using, all those skills have different cooldowns, and you need to use them in an order so you're beneficial of the cooldowns the best. And since everything you do is highly mana dependent, and I personally do not like to use any MP potions while I'm doing AoEs, I think it's kind of annoying, I do recommend a refresher hold. Even though it is not required, it makes your life so much easier. Yeah, that's it. We are at the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and earned your subscription by then. And if this is so, give it a thumbs up, and I would be really happy if you join in on our Twitch streams that are starting from the 14th of June almost daily as soon as Global is released. Cheers!